This is Dream Power Radio, the place where your dreams turn into reality. Here is your host, Debbie Spector-Weissman.
Hello, and welcome to Dream Power Radio on the amazing Women and Men of Power Network, the world's leading positive programming network, powered by Raven International. I'm your host, Debbie Spector-Weissman, the Dream Coach. This is a show where we talk about dreams, both daytime and nighttime dreams, and how you can use them to make the internal shift to a life you love and rediscover the truth of who you really are. I'm going to start today's show with a bit of a flashback. The year is 2013, and I'm sitting in my mother's room in a hospice. She'd just been diagnosed with stage 4 liver cancer, and at age 96, my sisters and I knew that her days were numbered, but for how long we didn't know. Her mind was still as sharp as a tack, and she seemed resigned to the news. But I could see her energy sapping day by day, and along with the meds they were giving her to manage her pain, she was spending more and more of her time sleeping. At the time, I was just starting to study dream work, and so when she drifted off to sleep, I paid attention to what was happening. I noticed that she was talking in her sleep. I kept hearing her call out, "Papa, Papa, Papa," often followed by the words, "Buy me some candy," or some other words that I figured out were in Yiddish. When she woke up and I told her she was dreaming, she laughed and shook her head. "I don't dream," she said. I knew better, of course, and I told her that she was speaking with her father and would soon see him again. Well, that seemed to give her a lot of comfort. I've since found out that this phenomenon is common, although sadly, most family members don't pay attention to this. One person who does is my guest today, dream practitioner and teacher, Jo Heyen. As a hospice volunteer, Jo has worked with the dreams of dying people and has written about it in her book, Dreaming into the Mystery, Explorations into Being with the Dreams and Visions of the Dying. Welcome to Dream Power Radio, Jo.
Well, thank you, Debbie. And I'm already stepping in with my throat thick because of the beautiful sharing about your mom at end of life. Thank you so much. I'm very touched. I think you can hear it in my voice. And what a great way to step into what we'll explore here together today, of how not just to acknowledge that there are dreams and visions at end of life, but as important perhaps is how can we be with them? How can we, a dream work practitioner such as ourselves, or a medical staff, or the caregivers that come, and the family, how can we be with each other?
Well, that's why I wanted to have you on today, because I want to learn more about these kinds of dreams. And at the same time, I know that a lot of people might find the topic uncomfortable because a lot of us just don't even want to think about dying. But I kind of believe that understanding these dreams can be helpful in our discussions about death. So I want to know, do you find resistance from people when you tell them that you work with dreams of the dying?
I haven't been asked that question before, and that's a great question. I would say instead of resistance, what might be what I think you were touching into is that a topic such as this, even dreams itself, but especially at end of life, what rises is our own fears. And this is what I do address. In fact, the book, I share my experiences with those at end of life, but I also have a big do we be with people. And one of the first things is being aware of our own fears. This is a scary time. We don't know what's going on. We're in the don't know land. It's not something that can be fixed. No one knows better than perhaps the dying themselves that they're dying. And they really, that's what my experience shows, they really want to be met in that place and talk about it.
Because the fears, it's not just the dying people who have the fears, but their family have the fears as well.
Oh, yeah. Their world. And again, when hospice comes in, what a wonderful supportive team. But we have to remember, many of us have our lives set. We know how we're going to live. We have control, seemingly think we have control of our lives and manage. And when someone enters hospice, that world gets turned 180. Strangers are coming into the house at all times, equipment. And so the families have a lot of fear. They don't know what to do.
It is such a big unknown. In your work as a hospice worker, how do you help these people understand their dreams?
What I do is so I'll back up a little bit. I am a natural dream work practitioner, a natural dream work, and I can say more about that later if you'd like, there's a cadre of us, about 18, and we work with a particular way, and it's basically to find this way of inner and outer, a way to, just by being on planet Earth, we've lost connections with some of the truest parts of who we are. And the dreams want to help us bring us back into that alignment and that relationship. And so I work with clients, I was going to say all over the country, I work with clients all over the world, what I would say are mainstream clients. That same approach I take in to the hospice room with the hospice person. These precious people that our hospice lets the families know when they come on that here's all the support services, including that they have a dream work practitioner. And so then they will request, it's up to them, but they know they have this added layer of support. And so I'll be asked to come in. So already the person knows that they want to talk about their dream. And so what I do is they'll tell me the dream if they can. And I'll start to ask questions about it, what it's like for them in that moment. And right away, one of the first things is that many times, all of us, but especially at end of life, most of us haven't paid attention to our dreams. So the dying can be kind of startled by these dreams. They can be frightening, and they won't want to share them. They may want to protect their families. So to be able to speak about the dreams with someone is really a support for them. And even more so, there's a healing, there's a comfort, there's a helping hand across that final threshold. Is it okay if I go ahead and share a dream as an example here?
Yes.
So I was working with a fellow, and he had a recurring dream. This was for much of his life. He'd have a recurring dream where there was a car accident and it was terrible and he was afraid, and he would tell himself, I'll just wake up, and he could wake up. And now in hospice, he had the dream. I told myself, I'll just wake up. He said, but I couldn't wake up. And so I stepped into that dream with him. I let him tell it. So I said, let's go back in to the dream. I said, you're not alone here now. I said, I'm sitting here with you, and go to the moment where you feel afraid, you're terrified, and you can't wake up. And can you take one breath there? Most of us can take one breath. And he did. And we sat quietly. And then, Debbie, the tears came. And he said, here it comes. He said, here comes the grief. So under the fear was waiting the grief that he wanted to feel. And he said to me, and this was a very strong man of faith. He said, I tell everybody, I'm not afraid to die, but I am. And what a weight off of him in that moment to be able to share that. Mm-hmm. So that's a very sweet, touching moment where it wasn't me, Mary Jo. But my willingness to explore that dream with him, to stay with it, not explain it, not interpret it, but to help him feel it.
Mm-hmm. And did that help ease his fear?
Yes, because it doesn't mean that the fear is going to go away. We think that we've got to not have fear. My experience, and I'm so grateful for it, I think a quality of soul is that we can feel our fear and still be in the moment. And so he was afraid to die. He was, and that was okay. But he also knew he had support to do it. And then as the end came, it was very comforting for him.
Mm-hmm. Are there any common themes that run through the dreams that you've experienced with these dying people?
Well, one would be, and I'll bring in visions here now too. One would be that there starts to be more dreams of deceased family members. Those dreams are very similar to the dreams you and I might have tonight. They're this way of wanting to say, the dreams kind of say, do you know you're this way in the world? Is this how you want to be? And we realize we have a choice. Maybe you don't want to be certain ways we are in relationships or with ourselves. They're very supportive in coaxing us to find that alignment to soul. So as the death approaches, then I do see a change in the dreams. And it now starts to come in forms of support, whether it's characters in the dream that the dreamer doesn't know, but they're supportive. They come there, they're less and less alone. Visions, which I think can happen anytime in our life. I don't think it's exclusive to end of life. Visions do start to come in those last few days to weeks, and that's oftentimes family members that have gone ahead, and that gives great comfort. I have another anecdote I can share. What a delight she was. So I'll call her Donna, and she was just a few days away from death. And she had a terrible breakthrough pain. The meds couldn't help it. So I was with her, and we talked a little bit about dreams, but she really was in pain. I mean, ouch, she just, ouch, ouch, became her mantra. So the visit was near the end, and I stood up and I said, Don, is there anything you need before I go? And she said, no, but I can ask her if I need something. And she pointed to an empty chair next to me. So I sat right back down. I wasn't going to go anywhere. I said, well, tell me about her. And she looks at her and she says, well, she's a little thing. And I said, does she look familiar? Yeah, she looks familiar. And I said, what's the look on her face? She goes, it's really sweet. She goes, you don't have to be afraid of her. I said, oh, I'm not. I said, she is here for you. She is here for you. I'm glad she's here. And so we sat like that for a little bit. And I left, and I was leaving her in better hands than mine. And in that moment, Debbie, let me add, because this is so important, we don't need to be in that moment saying we believe there's someone in that chair or not. That's not why we're there. She saw her. She believed in her. My place in that moment was because it was giving her comfort, was to support that. I think there was someone in the chair, but that's not the issue here. It's the experience of the one dying.
Mm-hmm. Do you share this information with the family members?
Sometimes I do. It depends on what it is, because one of the words I use is sometimes these dreams that they share are confessionals too. Like, I was working with a fellow, and near the end, he started to, and I think he was in his 80s. He was starting to have dreams of a girl he loved in high school. And so when I'd come in his room, he'd go, I had a dream about the little gal last night. And then, and the little gal and he would go for ice cream or go for a walk. And you could see this 80-year-old face turn into a 16-year-old boy in love. It was just so beautiful. And so as an example, as I was leaving one day, he said, hey, and I looked back, he goes, don't tell my wife, she won't understand. But he loved sharing that. Mm-hmm. And so that's what a way we get to be, to come in.
We're going to get more into it, but we have to take a break now. Sure. We are speaking with dream expert Mary Jo Heyen about the dreams of the dying, and we'll be right back. What do Thomas Jefferson, Elias Howe, and Paul McCartney have in common? They all understood the value of dreams, and as a result, the ideas, inventions, and creations from their dreams affect us to this day. What great ideas are you leaving on your pillow at night? Sign up for a complimentary consultation at my website, thedreamcoach.net, and discover why your dreams are a terrible thing to waste.
Welcome back to Dream Power Radio with your host, Debbie Spector-Weissman.
Yes, welcome back to Dream Power Radio. I'm your host, Debbie Spector-Weissman, and we're talking all about the dreams of the dying. with my guest, Mary Jo Heyen. And Mary Jo, you say that sometimes it's beneficial to share the dreams with the family and sometimes not.
Yes, yes. So as the example I just gave about the little gal, that was just something that was, when we're in love and we're teenagers, we want to talk about it. Well, that's what was his experience, but he didn't want to share it with his wife because he didn't know. And that's okay. It's so okay. I had another dreamer, and this was maybe 2 or 3 days before she died, but the family couldn't take care of her at home anymore. And this is important for families to hear, because boy, they sure do the best they can, and it can become very difficult for them. And so as an aside, I want to say, when it's time to make that hard decision about bringing in hospice or placing a loved one in a hospice facility, also know that all the caregiving that has gone on for those months and can be exhausting for families, once hospice comes in, or they have to go into a care facility, they get to return to their roles of son and daughter and grandchildren. They don't have to worry about all of the day-to-day caregiving. They get to be in those final days in that primary relationship with their loved one. So the family had to put, I'll call her Bonnie, into a care facility, and she was not happy. When they brought her in, she said they're dumping. She was angry, and again, what's under anger oftentimes is fear. This was scary for her. So the final dream she shared with me, the family had for generations had a lake house, and she was at the lake house, and at a distance saw her father, who was deceased, in his lake house T-shirt, silly hat, and he waved at her, and she was just glowing as she was telling me that. And I said, how does that feel? She goes, well, I'm afraid my sister will tell me don't go over there. And I said, well, is your sister in the dream? And she said, no. I said, who's in the dream? She said, me and my dad. I said, so he's here for you. I said, can you start to walk over to your dad? And the look of peace and joy on her face was just, it's beatific, isn't it, in these moments? And so then after the visit, I was leaving and I ran into her husband as he was coming in to visit. And I did share this dream with him because they were feeling so guilty. And how do we lighten that burden? I could see as I was telling him this, I could see his shoulders like, she's okay. She's going to be with her dad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I got that experience with the dreams with my mother. And so I wanted to ask you about that too, because like I said, she never remembered her dreams and never thought they were important. And, when I told her I was starting to study dream work, she's like, why are you doing that? What's the point of that? But yet, she had several dreams, and the ones at least I was able to understand from her was that they all were with her father. So what would cause her to have these dreams at this point?
Well, and you tell me, I'm guessing she had a good relationship with her dad?
Oh, yes. She was one of 7 siblings, and she was the father's favorite.
Yeah.
Sometimes to her detriment in life.
Well, a couple things. One, the dreams bring, one is her dad. So it's not, if it's a stranger that comes, even if they're loving, we still don't know quite yet. But when it comes with someone where already the love connection is there, we don't have to say, what's it like? We don't have to, because she's already knows 2 things, Debbie. She knows she loves her father, and she knows her father loves her. And if somebody said to me, Mary Jo, could you describe your version of soul? I would say it's the need to love and the need to be loved. So in that moment, she was at ground zero of the love. And the other thing that struck me so much was when you said, what did you say? She wanted candy?
Yeah.
Or they were going for candy. And so what does that tell me is that it also takes her back to that child place, mm-hmm. where there is that, we haven't been so conditioned by life. There's more of a purity and a closer into and that happiness. Beautiful, beautiful. That to me is a touchstone dream that says this is how healing. We talk about work. We talk about the healing medicine of the dream, and it's so well applied to end of life because kind of medicine. The traditional medicines can't do anything anymore for us, and so can we bring in another kind of medicine? And it is the feelings that are us back into feeling. And I do want to say that not all end-of-life experiences are filled with love and support. Every death is different. And some folks do struggle right to the end. They may die angry, and it's very painful for them. It's painful for their families. And we do our best to be with them in whatever way might also be comforting.
Well, I wanted to get back to the actual subject of dreams themselves. When you tell the family members about the dreams that you can tell them about, does it get them interested in exploring their own dreams if they haven't been remembering their dreams themselves?
I would say yes, a qualified yes, in that I have some, when I'm working with hospice families, and this is as a volunteer, I also volunteer my time with the families, because they're dreams as well. And afterwards, I also extend that. And so some people have been interested in it. For many, the overwhelm is a euphemism at this point. They are so overwhelmed and making it from day to day and moment to moment. But yes, I could share another dream of a family member as her husband was dying.
Sure.
So this was a woman that I knew, and she wasn't interested in dreams, and that's okay. So then this was an acquaintance in town. Then her husband was on hospice, and she came to one of the hospice meetings. And as we were walking out, she said, I had the strangest dream. And well, that's music to my ears, right? Isn't it? We love to hear that. And so I said, well, let's talk about it. So the dream was basically, she had ordered a single bed that was really big, and she didn't know why she did it. And she was all panicked. What was she going to do with this single bed? And so I said, okay. So we explored the single bed. It was 10 feet long. And I said, can you take a look at this bed, this single bed? And she got it. And she started to cry. And she said, in a few weeks, I'm only going to need a single bed. And then Debbie, she said, she pushed her hand, she goes, but what's the point of feeling sad? And I said, well, I'll call her Patty. I said, Patty, what if the dream in its wisdom knows that you're feeling sad, and it's okay to feel sad. It's okay. It's okay to feel, this is sad. And her husband was dying much quicker than they had expected. So then I said, let's go ahead and take a look at that bed again. And it was 10 feet long. And I said, and this is a woman of tremendous faith. She leads with her. And so I said, well, who would a bed 10 feet long? And she said, somebody really big. And I said, so somebody really big's, maybe you didn't order the bed. I said, maybe the bed arrived because somebody's moving in with you during this time. And she got it again, that there was this big presence moving in to support her. And that was very, very comforting for her.
Yeah, it's just so amazing. It's always amazing to me how dreams can just comfort us and give us that wisdom we would not have gotten otherwise. Mm. And I'd say when I observed my mother's experience, I was thinking, how wonderful would it be if there were dream experts in all hospices out there to help patients ease their transitions out of this world? But do you think that the medical profession as a whole is open to this?
This is such a terrific question and so timely. So thank you for asking it. There is a fellow named Dr. Christopher Kerr in Buffalo, and he runs Buffalo Hospice, and he actually has a TED Talk about dreams and visions at end of life, and his hospice honors them. And years ago, he and I were in touch, and he encouraged me to write about my experiences. So I wrote an article for the Journal of Palliative Medicine, which got published, which is great because it brings dreams into that community at that level. And then I wrote Dreaming into the Mystery, and he just sent me a link to his new documentary coming out called Death is But a Dream. And it's about his hospice in Buffalo, which is unique. And my work is unique because it's on staff honored. And it's about his work with the dreams and visions of those in his hospice that are dying. So I think when this comes out, hopefully if my book is well received, that hospices will start to invite to have as part of their team dream workers that can come and be a support to the family.
So you have been a dream practitioner for years. Like you say, your method that you use called natural dream work. What got you interested in the dreams of the dying?
I had a decades-long career in public education, but always loved my dreams. I have my first remembered dream at age 4. Dreams were important to me. And then after I retired from teaching, I went right back to studying dreams. And so many beautiful ways that are out there in schools. But what got me interested was, how do I say this? I thought I wanted to work with other people's dreams, but to become a natural dream work practitioner, I had to first work with my dreams. And that is something that is very precious, because as I can be with the difficult places and fears and pains and loves and joys in my life, I can be with another. So after I had started to build my own dream work clientele practice, I had always been interested in meditation at end of life. And then dream work blends right in. And so I called our local hospice. Our chaplain at that time, it was so important that it was her, because she was immediately interested, had questions, asked me to come in, invited me to do the hospice training and join the team. And I did all of that. And about 6 months into my time as a volunteer, then I actually in-serviced the staff on how they can be with, what do we do when somebody says, I had a dream? Do we dismiss it? Do we, back to our opening comments, the fear? And we don't know what, it's not that we're doing something wrong, we just don't know what to do. And that's one of the, as I said earlier, Debbie, one of the main focuses of Dreaming into the Mystery is it doesn't have to be specialized training, but how can we be with and honor those dying, even if we don't understand what's happening? Mm-hmm. Something's happening and they know it, and can we be with it?
Oh, absolutely. Well, Mary Jo, how can people find out more about you and your services?
I'm going to give you 2 websites. My own personal one is maryjoheyen.com, www.maryjoheyen.com. That'll get you right to me. And I will give you the group I work with and it's thenaturaldream.com. And you can go there and read about all of the approaches we use to the work, including and I would encourage listeners, if you want to explore your own dreams, go to the About Us page and you'll see all of us listed there, and find someone that rings with you and get in touch and begin this wonderful exploration. The Buddha, when I love, and I'm not sure it's a direct quote, but the Buddha basically said, don't take my word for it that meditation is helpful and can be beneficial in your life. Try it. And I would say the same thing about dreams. Don't take my word for it. Try it. And that will let you see how it is for you.
Mary Jo, thank you so much for being on Dream Power Radio today. We've been speaking with natural dreamwork practitioner Mary Jo Heyen. I hope you've enjoyed today's program. If you have, please tell all your friends, subscribe, and drop a positive review on your podcast site. Until next time, this is Debbie Spector-Weissman saying, sweet dreams, everybody.
You've been listening to Dream Power Radio with your host, Debbie Spector-Weissman. For more information on Debbie or to sign up for her newsletter, go to dreampowerradio.com. This has been Dream Power Radio on the amazing Women and Men of Power Network, the world's leading positive programming network, powered by Raven International.